Uh, I have gas. Is there a cure? We're going to talk about it now. Hey folks, and welcome back to 22 Short Thursdays. This is the casual edition of Get on Target with Link. Today we're talking about gas. I got gas. I got it bad. It's okay, you could be in the room with me. We're talking about gun acquisition syndrome. And it's a real affliction. If you get bitten by the gun bug, it's a rabbit hole. You're going down in it, and it never ends. It just keeps on keeping on. This is true pretty much about anything that you get obsessed with, that you get interested in, hobbies, avocations, etc. It's endlessly fascinating. Gas, I think the first application of that nomenclature was guitar acquisition syndrome, and I got that. And that was the first one I had. It's a pretty well defined track that you get on with guitar acquisition syndrome. You get yourself an acoustic guitar, and I got one, and I started playing, and I finally got to a point where I was making some noises on it that didn't scare squirrels. And not that I'm a great guitar player. I'm not. You will not hear me play it on the channel. But I got so I could do enough stuff that I wasn't embarrassed anyway. And but after a while, and this is what happens, is if you get interested in something, you start to learn more and more about it. And the more you learn, the more the nuances start becoming glaring, and you have to move on. So the first step, of course, of the guitar is you go, well, there's some music that just sounds better on an electric. So you get yourself an electric guitar and an amplifier, and I did that. And after playing that for a little bit, you go, well, you know, there's some music that those types of guitars over there, that kind of electric guitar, that's better for that kind of music. So I'm going to get me one of those. And then I'm good. Except I really love the finish on this other one. God, it's so beautiful. That guitar is so gorgeous. So you wind up getting one of those. And then, of course, I needed one that I could learn to play tremolo. So you have to get a guitar that's got tremolo, of course. Got to have. And then you start getting better, and you start learning more. And you realize that the tone on that acoustic that you got first, it's not that great. It's just not that great a guitar, and so now I need a better acoustic. And you go look at, on it goes, and it never ends. And you start with a guitar, then you have 3, then you have 7, and then you have 20 and it takes up an entire room in your house. And you can't play them all. You don't have that many hours in a day, and you got a job, etc. But they're beautiful, and they are part of your collection, and you treasure them. Well, the same thing happens with almost anything that you do. The same thing has happened to me with guns. Weapons, to me, they're beautiful. When I walked into a guitar shop and I would see all the guitars on the wall, aside from the music that they could play, the instruments themselves were pieces of art. They're beautiful. They are the contours of them, the shapes, the colors, the finishes, the woods that are used. It's just endlessly fascinating and endlessly beautiful. And I've started to feel the same way about weapons. The weapons they're fascinating. The differences in features, in caliber, in mechanisms, in style, in all of it. It's endlessly interesting to me. The whole adventure this time around, because I've been a gun person all my life, but I left it for decades. And I came back on board with this, and it was the Taurus G2C. You've seen it on other videos that I've done. But the G2C, I figured out I wanted to get one gun and just get back into it a little bit. And this seemed like the perfect one. It was kind of an all-around weapon, a little on the small side. This is a compact to subcompact, depending on who you ask. But it could do a lot of different things. It was good on the range, really fun on the range, applicable for home defense. And for some people, this is a carryable size. For me, it's not. I find this to be a little bit overblown for carry. It's too heavy to me for being on me all day long. And it's just not appropriate to me. A lot of people will carry this size, though. But the other thing was, it was incredibly inexpensive. This is a great value weapon, and you're not giving up much. This is well made. It's extremely well constructed. It's accurate. It's reliable. Hard to find a downside. But as I started to learn more and more about the weapons and what I could do, I decided I wanted something a little bit smaller and carryable, and that meant going to a different round, which was a 380 ACP in the Glock 42, and this was the second gun I got. And this is a lot smaller and easier to pack away and not really be bothered with as you're walking around. And it won't bother other people because it won't be terribly obvious that you have anything with you. The other thing that was impactful about this and that motivated me was that Taurus's reputation with pistols specifically was bad. They had not made particularly terrific weapons in the past, and they didn't hold up that well, weren't that accurate. They just didn't have a very good reputation. The G2C, G3, and the new G3C have really turned that around for them. This is a go-to weapon now in the industry as an affordable quality weapon. People are flocking to it, and for really, really good reasons. Huge seller over the last few years, and it's earned it. But Glock was on the other end of that spectrum. The Glock is a highly respected name in the weapons industry, known for reliability, known for its toughness, known for being able to be shot in all kinds of tough situations and scenarios. This was a weapon that had some prestige, and I would be lying to you if I didn't say that had some influence on my purchase. But this was also smaller. It was going to be something that I could carry, and it was an accurate gun, easy recoil, very easy to shoot. Could shoot this at the range all day, and it just wouldn't bother you. So that was number two. And then I saw this one, and this was the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard M&P version. And I saw that online, and I said, well, that's a sexy little beast. I think that's a cool gun. Disappears. It's so tiny. The ideal carry weapon. You can carry this, and not only will nobody else know that you've got it on it, you'll forget that you have it on it. It's light, it's small, it's still a 380 ACP, so it's got enough of a round to be able to do the job it's intended to do if it was ever called into use. And I had to have it, and I got it. So I should be all set. I got what I need. Not even close. It's not even close. I could rattle off a dozen guns right now talking to you that I'd love to have. I'd really like to have. For example, I'd like to have a revolver. Revolver is an iconic weapon that has an incredible history going way back. Playing cowboys and Indians when you're a kid. Hello there. It's a revolver. Double actions, single actions. They all have this history in both the frontier and law enforcement that they're compelling. You got to have one, and it's a completely different mechanism that just loading them is a different experience. It's just a completely different thing. And I'd love to have those. And on and on and on. And it never ends. This is true with whatever you do. So if you're a fisherman, maybe you start out with your spin casting rod, or and you evolve to a bait caster because now you're pitching into those lily pads, and you want to pull out the lunkers out of and you need something beefy, so you get the bait caster. And then you go out to the streams and you want to get some trout. So now it's got to have the fly rod. And if you need the fly rod, you need the flies. And now this whole other category of stuff opens up, and you got to get that too. So you're going to see a video coming up where I changed out the front sight on the Taurus to a fiber optic front sight from Lakeline LLC. And you'll see me wrestle that into place on a video coming up. But accessories, and then that is a whole nother sinkhole that you fall into. On the Glock, I've already produced a video that shows how to change out the base plates on the magazines and put in a little plug that just gives you a better grip on the weapon, and it also tightens up the look of the weapon and kind of finishes it off. And then there are triggers, and then there are holsters, and there are lasers and lights and magazine holders and on and on and on. If you're into sewing, there's this needle and there's that needle and there's this hoop and there's that. I don't know what I'm talking about, but you do. Whatever your passion is, it's this end. The knowledge starts to expand, and the understanding of the use of some of these things that are produced for that start to make sense, and the nuances of them start to matter to you, and on it goes. So one example of this is that I have it in my head that I think it might be fun to try competing. I undoubtedly will suck at it, but I think it'll be a lot of fun to try it. I think it'll be a blast, if you know what I mean. But if the only weapon that I have here that I could even enter a competition with would be the Taurus G2C. It's a 9mm. The 380s are not appropriate for competition, and they're not allowed. So that's the only one I can compete with. And it's really not a competition weapon. There are other nuances to competition weapons that make them more appropriate for the job. And if my skill level is already going to make it a difficulty to do it, then I don't need to have to overcome the weapon as well. So that would be another weapon that I would want to add to my canon, my collection. And it never ends. So gun acquisition syndrome. If you have more money than I do, you're at greater risk, because my budget is going to put me on the street if I bought all the weapons that I would like to buy. It's just not going to happen. You may not have that restriction. The other restriction that I have here, where I live, here in Virginia, is on July 1st, they passed a bunch of new gun laws here in the state. And one of them was we can now only buy one handgun per month. Now, I'm not going into the politics of that. You can feel however you want to feel about that, but it's the law in Virginia. And for me, that's kind of a godsend, because I think it could be valuable to a lot of people, because it'll put the brakes on for a little while. You get a wild hair that, I got to get this weapon. Slow down. You can't. You got another 3 weeks before you can get it, or whatever it is, however long since you bought the last one. And that's a good thing. Give it some real thought. In all of these passions, we'll buy something in a fury, and 3 months later it's of no use. You're just like, no, wasn't it? That's not me. This kind of puts the brakes on for me, and makes me think, is this something I'm going to want to have in my collection for the long term? Is it something I'm going to go back to and enjoy 3 years from now, 5 years from now? So for me, if I have gas, Virginia's new law is my Pepto-Bismol. It tamps it down enough so that I can maybe slow down and give it some thought before I jump and get something that's just really silly. So maybe you can relate to this with what you are into. And it may be guns. It probably is if you're here. So go slow, give it thought. These are not cheap. These are investments, and they will last you, if you take care of them, they'll basically last you a lifetime. So give it some thought. Let the gas pass. So that's today's edition of 22 Short Thursdays. I hope you had some fun with it. I did. If you liked it, like it, subscribe to the video, and ring the bell. Come on back. We're going to be doing this every Thursday, just casually. Leave comments down below. I want to talk back and forth. I'll be relating to the comments. Have had some great ones. People that both liked some of the videos that I did, even took action because of some of those videos, and others that had some good criticisms that were valid, and was partly about some of the audio in one of them. Maybe an update to and I have updated my intro to these videos, and that's all because of the feedback that I'm getting from you. So I appreciate it. Good, bad, or indifferent. Let me hear from you. Let me hear what's going on. And until the next time that we meet on Get On Target with Link, see ya.